The phone rang at 2:30 in the morning, shattering the silence of my Seattle bedroom. I am Montgomery, 67 years old, retired architect, and father to one son. The voice on the other end belonged to a nurse named Patricia Jenkins at Tampa General Hospital in Florida. Her words made my blood run cold. My son Daniel, 38 years old, was in the intensive care unit with acute kidney failure and sepsis. She whispered that she was calling without the family's knowledge because no one had visited in 3 days. My daughter-in-law, Courtney, had told the hospital Daniel was resting at home. My hands shook as I ended the call. Something was terribly, horribly wrong. I booked the next flight to Tampa, leaving at 6 in the morning. 12 hours later, I would discover a betrayal so deep it would change everything I thought I knew about my son's marriage and test every ounce of strength I had left in my aging bones. The Florida humidity wrapped around me like a wet blanket as I stepped out of the taxi at Tampa General Hospital. It was just past 8 in the morning, and the sun was already brutal. I had not slept on the flight. My mind kept cycling through worst-case scenarios, each one more terrifying than the last. But nothing prepared me for what I found when I walked through those automatic doors and took the elevator to the 4th-floor intensive care unit. You trusted the wrong person. So did my son. Get it done, Gregory. She led me down a hallway lined with glass-walled rooms. We stopped at room 412. Through the window, I saw my son, and my knees nearly buckled. Daniel lay motionless in the bed, his face gaunt and yellowish under the fluorescent lights. Tubes ran from his arms, his nose, his chest. Machines surrounded him like mechanical sentinels. This was not the healthy, smiling man I had seen on our last video call 6 months ago. This was someone dying. I pushed through the door. The smell hit me first, that particular hospital cocktail of disinfectant and illness. I approached the bed slowly, afraid that moving too fast might somehow make it all more real. Daniel's chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. His hands, resting on top of the white blanket, looked skeletal. I reached out and touched his fingers. They were cold. Behind me, someone cleared her throat. I turned to find a black woman in her 50s, wearing scrubs decorated with tiny cartoon cats. Her name tag read Patricia Jenkins, RN, the nurse who had called me. "Mr. Montgomery," she said quietly. "I am glad you came. What happened?" My voice came out hoarse, broken. "When did he get here?" Patricia glanced toward the door, then stepped closer and lowered her voice. 4 days ago. He came in by ambulance. A neighbor found him collapsed in his apartment. By the time he got here, he was barely conscious. Tests showed acute kidney failure caused by a severe infection that had gone untreated for at least 2 weeks, maybe longer. 2 weeks. I felt rage beginning to build in my chest. Where was his wife? Patricia's jaw tightened. She came once, the first day. Signed all the paperwork, spoke with the doctors. Then she left and said she would be back. We have not seen her since. We have called her cell phone probably 15 times. She responds with texts saying she is handling things from home and will visit when Daniel stabilizes. Handling things from home, I repeated, the words tasting bitter. What does that even mean? I wondered the same thing, Patricia said. That is why I called you. Something felt wrong. A husband this sick, and his wife cannot be bothered to sit with him? I've been a nurse for 28 years. I have seen a lot of things, but this did not sit right with me. A doctor appeared in the doorway. He was a tall man with silver hair and tired eyes, wearing a white coat over blue scrubs. Patricia introduced him as Dr. Raymond Foster, the nephrologist overseeing Daniel's care. Dr. Foster shook my hand and got straight to the point. Your son is in critical condition. The infection damaged both kidneys severely. We have him on dialysis, and we are fighting the sepsis with aggressive antibiotics. But I will be honest with you, Mr. Montgomery. He needs a kidney transplant, possibly soon. The damage may be irreversible. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. Will he survive? With proper treatment and time, yes, I believe so. But the road ahead is long and uncertain. Dr. Foster paused, choosing his words carefully. I need to tell you something. When your daughter-in-law was here on the first day, we discussed treatment options. I recommended a specific course of antibiotics, the most effective ones for this type of infection. They are expensive. She asked if there were cheaper alternatives. When I said yes, but emphasized they were less effective, She chose the cheaper option. White-hot fury flooded through me. She chose to save money while her husband was dying? I cannot speak to her motivations, Dr. Foster said diplomatically, but his eyes told me everything his words did not. When I said yes but emphasized they were less effective, she chose the cheaper option. After the doctor left, I tried calling Courtney. The phone rang 6 times and went to voicemail. I did not leave a message. Instead, I called Courtney's parents in Miami. Her mother, Linda, answered on the 3rd ring. Have you heard from Courtney recently? Not in about 2 weeks. Why? What is wrong? I explained the situation. Linda gasped, then went silent. When she spoke again, her voice shook. That cannot be right. Courtney would never. Are you sure? Your daughter has not been to this hospital in 3 days, Linda. Daniel is alone. Oh my God. I will call her right now. I will make her go there. You do that, I said, and hung up. I sat in the chair beside Daniel's bed and watched his chest rise and fall. The machines beeped their steady rhythm. On the small table beside the bed, I noticed a stack of papers, hospital billing documents. I picked them up, more out of need to do something with my hands than actual curiosity. The top sheet was an itemized bill. Below it were older statements from a different hospital visit. I scanned them and felt my stomach drop. $18,000 in unpaid medical bills from an appendectomy Daniel had last year. The bills were addressed to both Daniel and Courtney. Multiple notices stamped past due in red letters. They made good money. Daniel worked as a software engineer, pulling in around $90,000 a year. Courtney worked in marketing for a luxury hotel chain, earning at least $70,000. How could they not pay an $18,000 bill? My phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. I did not use social media much, but I had created an account a year ago so I could follow Daniel and see what he was up to. The notification said Daniel had posted a new story. I clicked it, expecting maybe an old automated post. Instead, what I saw made my vision blur with rage. It was not Daniel's post. It was Courtney's account tagged in a story. The image showed Courtney on the deck of a massive white yacht, her arms raised above her head, champagne glass in one hand. She wore a tiny bikini and oversized sunglasses. Behind her, several other young people lounged on deck chairs. Everyone was laughing. The sky was brilliantly blue. The ocean sparkled. The location tag read Miami Beach Marina. The timestamp read 2 hours ago. While Daniel lay dying in a hospital bed 60 miles north, connected to machines that were keeping him alive, his wife was partying on a yacht with champagne and strangers. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. My hands trembled. Every muscle in my body tensed with an anger so pure and focused it felt like I might explode. But I did not explode. Instead, something cold and calculated settled over me. Courtney had made a choice. Now, I was going to make mine. I stepped out of Daniel's room and walked to a quiet corner of the ICU waiting area. My hands were steady now, my mind clear. Rage had crystallized into purpose. I needed information, and I needed it fast. My first call was to Gregory Walsh, my financial advisor in Seattle. Gregory and I had worked together for 20 years. He managed my retirement accounts and had helped me set up a trust fund for Daniel 5 years ago, after I sold my architecture firm. The trust was worth $400,000, established to give Daniel financial security. As his father, I was the primary trustee, but the funds were accessible to Daniel and his spouse for emergencies. Gregory answered on the second ring. Montgomery, good morning. What can I do for you? I need you to pull up Daniel's trust fund activity immediately. Of course. Give me just a moment. I heard keyboard clicking. All right, I have it here. What specifically are you looking for? Any withdrawals in the past 6 months? Gregory answered on the second ring. Montgomery, good morning. What can I do for you? I need you to pull up Daniel's trust fund activity immediately. More clicking. Then Gregory went quiet. That silence told me everything. Montgomery, there have been 2 significant withdrawals. 3 months ago, $75,000. 2 weeks ago, $50,000. Courtney did. She called me directly, said it was for Daniel's new business venture, a startup he was launching. She had all the proper documentation and access codes. I tried to reach Daniel to confirm, but Courtney said he was deep in development mode and could not be disturbed. She was very convincing. There is no business, Gregory. Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, "Oh no. I need you to freeze that account immediately, right now. Can you do that? As primary trustee, you have override authority. Yes, I can freeze it within the hour. Montgomery, what is going on?" Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, "Oh no. I will have it frozen in 30 minutes, he said. "And Montgomery, I am so sorry. I should have pushed harder to confirm with Daniel." I gave him the short version. "Daniel in the ICU, Courtney missing, the yacht photos." Gregory swore softly. "You trusted the wrong person. So did my son. Get it done, Gregory." "Mr. Montgomery? This is a surprise. How are you doing?" "Trevor, I need to ask you something. Did Daniel start a business recently?" "A business? No. Why would you think that?" "Daniel has been working at Netsoft for the past 5 years. Same job, same company. He was actually just telling me a few weeks ago that he was hoping for a promotion." My suspicions confirmed. "When did you last see Daniel?" The ICU was quiet except for the rhythmic beeping of machines and the soft shuffle of nurses' shoes on linoleum. I gave my name at the desk. The woman behind the counter, a tired-looking nurse with graying hair, looked up sharply when I said I was Daniel's father. Her expression shifted from professional neutrality to something I could not quite read. Relief, maybe, or vindication. "Maybe 3 weeks ago? We grabbed lunch in Tampa. He seemed stressed, said his stomach was bothering him. I told him to see a doctor, but he laughed it off. Said Courtney thought he was being dramatic about a little indigestion." "Why? What is this about?" "I appreciate it, Trevor, but I need you to do something else first. Do you know any private investigators in Tampa?" Trevor did. He gave me the name and number of Sharon Dietrich, someone he had used once for a background check on a potential business partner. I thanked him and dialed Sharon immediately. Sharon had a no-nonsense voice and got straight to business. I explained what I needed: eyes on Courtney, documentation of where she was and what she was doing. I sent her the Instagram screenshots. She said she could be at the Miami Beach Marina in 45 minutes. "This will not be cheap," she warned. "I do not care what it costs. I want to know everything." While I waited, I did my own digging. I logged into Daniel's email account. I knew his password because he had given it to me years ago when he was traveling overseas and needed me to check something for him. He had never changed it. What I found in his inbox made my blood boil hotter. Credit card statements. 3 different cards, all joint accounts with Courtney. Every single one was maxed out. The total? $90,000. I opened the statements and scanned the charges. Designer boutiques, luxury spas, high-end restaurants, hotel suites in Miami, jewelry stores, and multiple charges to a company called Prestige Yacht Rentals. Courtney had been living a double life, and she had been funding it with money that was supposed to secure Daniel's future. I kept digging. In Daniel's text messages, I found the thread with Courtney. I scrolled back 2 weeks and felt sick. "Daniel, I think something is really wrong. The pain is getting worse. Can you take me to the hospital?" "Courtney, stop being dramatic. Take some Tylenol. I have plans tonight." The next morning, "Daniel, I can barely stand. Please help." "Courtney, I am in Miami with friends. Go to urgent care if it is that bad. Do not ruin my weekend." There were no more messages after that. 3 days later, according to the hospital records, a neighbor found Daniel collapsed in his apartment and called 911. My son had begged his wife for help, and she had told him not to ruin her weekend. I sat there in that waiting room, staring at those messages, and felt something shift inside me. This was not just betrayal. This was cruelty. This was neglect so profound it bordered on criminal. My phone buzzed. A text from Sharon. "At the marina. Eyes on target. We'll send updates." 15 minutes later, photos started coming through. Courtney on the yacht, laughing with 3 men and 2 other women. Close-ups of her face, flushed and happy. A video clip of her dancing on the deck while someone sprayed champagne. Then Sharon sent me something that changed everything. A photo of the yacht's registration placard. The owner's name, Bradley Sutton. I Googled him immediately. Bradley Sutton, 32, real estate developer, Miami-based. His social media showed a life of obscene wealth and constant parties. Cars, boats, private jets, beautiful people. I texted Sharon, Find out everything you can about the connection between Courtney and Bradley Sutton. Her response came 20 minutes later, and it was comprehensive. Sharon had a talent for finding information fast. Over the past 3 months, Courtney had been photographed with Bradley at multiple events, charity galas, restaurant openings, beach clubs, always when Daniel would have been at work. More damning, Sharon found hotel records. Courtney and Bradley had checked into the same Miami Beach hotel on 3 separate occasions, different rooms but adjoining. An affair. On top of everything else, Courtney was having an affair. I called my attorney, Harold Brennan, in Seattle. Harold was 70, sharp as a razor, and completely ruthless when his clients needed him to be. "Montgomery, what is the emergency?" Harold asked. I laid it all out. The trust fund withdrawals, the maxed credit cards, the affair, Daniel dying in the hospital while Courtney partied. Harold listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said, "How fast do you need me to move?" "Immediately. Give me 2 hours. I will have that trust fund frozen and file for emergency removal of Courtney as Daniel's medical proxy. You are next of kin. With evidence of neglect, we can get a court order today." "Do it." The pieces were falling into place. But I was not done yet. I had one more card to play, and it was going to hurt Courtney where it counted most. I called the credit card companies. As it turned out, all 3 cards had been opened years ago by me, with Daniel and Courtney added as authorized users when they got married. As the primary account holder, I had rights. I canceled all 3 cards, effective immediately. Then I accessed the joint checking account Daniel and Courtney shared. I was a co-signer on it, established when they bought their house, and needed me as a guarantor. The account had $32,000 in it. I froze it. "Give me 2 hours. I will have that trust fund frozen and file for emergency removal of Courtney as Daniel's medical proxy. You are next of kin. With evidence of neglect, we can get a court order today." My phone was on the table beside me when Sharon's next message came through. It was a video, recorded from a distance but with good audio. Courtney was at the yacht bar, trying to pay for a round of drinks. The bartender swiped her card. Declined. She handed him another card. Declined. A third. Declined. Courtney's face went from confused to alarmed. She pulled out her phone and started frantically tapping. Her expression shifted to pure panic. She stormed off the yacht deck, nearly running. The video followed her to the dock. She was on her phone, screaming at someone. "What do you mean frozen? That is my money. My father-in-law has no right. This is illegal." She tried calling someone else, then another person. She went to an ATM visible in the background. I watched her insert card after card, every single one rejected. She only had about $40 cash in her designer purse. The man she had been with on the yacht, Bradley, appeared in the frame. Courtney turned to him, saying something the camera could not pick up. Bradley shook his head, held up his hands, and walked away. Courtney called after him, but he did not turn back. Sharon's text. She just tried to borrow money from the yacht owner. He refused, said he does not mix business with pleasure. She is standing alone on the dock now. My phone started ringing. Courtney's name flashed on the screen. I declined the call. She called again. Declined. A text. "What did you do? Call me right now." Another call. Declined. A voicemail notification appeared. I listened. "Montgomery, I do not know what you think you are doing, but you need to call me back right now. You cannot just freeze my accounts. That is illegal. I have rights. Call me back." I deleted it. Another voicemail. This one angrier, her voice shaking. "This is insane. You are crazy. I am calling the police. You cannot steal from me." Delete. A third voicemail, and now she was crying. "Please, Montgomery, just call me back. I do not understand what is happening. Please, I need to talk to you." Delete. I sat in that waiting room, watching the sun sink lower through the windows, and felt absolutely nothing for Courtney's panic. She had made her choices. Now she was living with the consequences. By 8 o'clock that evening, I had received 8 voicemails from her, each one more desperate than the last. I listened to every single one without expression, then deleted them all. Harold called at 8:15. "It is done. Trust fund frozen. Emergency court order granted. You are now Daniel's medical proxy and have full authority over all medical and financial decisions. Courtney has been removed. The paperwork will be delivered to the hospital within the hour. Thank you, Harold. Montgomery, there is one more thing. Based on the evidence you provided, we may have grounds for criminal charges. Financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, medical neglect. The prosecutor's office would need to review it, but the case is strong. Let me think about that, I said. For now, I just want her away from my son. Understood. I will be on standby if you need anything else. I went back to Daniel's room. He looked exactly the same, pale and still, machines breathing for him. I pulled the chair close to his bed and took his hand. I am here, son, I whispered, and I am not going to let anyone hurt you again. My phone buzzed one more time. Sharon. Subject is driving north on I-95. Looks like she is heading to Tampa. ETA, approximately 90 minutes. I smiled grimly. Courtney was coming, and I was ready for her. Courtney arrived at Tampa General Hospital at 8:45 in the evening. I was waiting in the ICU family room, not at Daniel's bedside. I wanted neutral ground for what was coming, and I did not want her anywhere near my son until I had said what needed to be said. Sharon sent me a heads-up text when Courtney entered the building. I positioned myself in a chair facing the entrance, arms crossed, expression calm. Inside, my heart pounded, but I refused to let it show. Courtney burst through the double doors, still wearing her yacht party outfit. A designer sundress in coral pink, expensive leather sandals, oversized sunglasses pushed up on her head. Her makeup was smeared, mascara streaked down her cheeks. Whether from crying or rage, I could not tell and did not care. She spotted me immediately and marched over, her face twisted with fury. "How dare you?" she hissed, trying to keep her voice down in the hospital but failing. "How dare you freeze my money? That is financial abuse. I will sue you for everything you have." I stood slowly, meeting her eyes. At 67, I still had 4 inches on her. I kept my voice low and even. "That money was for Daniel's welfare. You stole it for yacht parties while your husband was dying 60 miles away. I did not steal anything. That money was accessible to me. I had every right to use it. For what?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the Instagram screenshot. For this? Champagne on a yacht while Daniel was in the ICU begging for his life? Courtney's face went pale, but she recovered quickly. "I needed a break. Do you have any idea how stressful it has been? I have been dealing with everything while Daniel just works all the time." "Really?" I pulled up the text messages on Daniel's phone and showed her the screen. "Is this what dealing with everything looks like?" She stared at the messages. Her own words, cold and dismissive, telling Daniel to stop being dramatic, not to ruin her weekend. The color drained from her face entirely. He always exaggerates," she stammered. "He gets a stomachache and acts like he is dying. How was I supposed to know it was serious this time? Because he was your husband." My voice rose despite my efforts to control it. "Because he begged you for help and you ignored him." A few nurses looked over. I took a breath and lowered my volume again. "Where is he?" Courtney demanded, trying to regain some authority. "I want to see Daniel right now." "No." "Excuse me? You cannot keep me from my husband." "Actually, I can." I pulled the court documents from my jacket pocket, the ones Harold had couriered to the hospital an hour ago. "As of 4 o'clock this afternoon, you are no longer Daniel's medical proxy. I am. I have full authority over all medical decisions and hospital access." Courtney snatched the papers from my hand and scanned them, her eyes widening. You cannot. This is not legal. It is completely legal. A judge signed it 3 hours ago based on evidence of medical neglect and financial exploitation. This is insane." She crumpled the papers and threw them at me. "You are a controlling old man who cannot stand that Daniel chose me over you." I bent down calmly, picked up the papers, and smoothed them out. "Daniel did not choose you over me, Courtney. He chose you, period, and I supported that choice. I gave you both my blessing, my trust, and my money. You repaid that by stealing from him and abandoning him when he needed you most. I was not abandoning him. I needed some space to think. On a yacht in Miami with another man's arms around you?" Her mouth fell open. "What are you talking about?" I showed her the photos Sharon had sent. Courtney and Bradley at restaurants, at hotels, on the yacht together. The timestamps, the locations, everything documented. That is, we are just friends. Bradley is a business associate. I bent down calmly, picked up the papers, and smoothed them out. Daniel did not choose you over me, Courtney. He chose you, period. And I supported that choice. I gave you both my blessing, my trust, and my money. You repaid that by stealing from him and abandoning him when he needed you most. I showed her the photos Sharon had sent. Courtney and Bradley at restaurants, at hotels, on the yacht together. The timestamps, the locations, everything documented. Dr. Foster appeared in the hallway, drawn by the commotion. He took one look at the scene and approached. "Mr. Montgomery, is everything all right?" I bent down calmly, picked up the papers, and smoothed them out. "Daniel did not choose you over me, Courtney. He chose you, period. And I supported that choice. I gave you both my blessing, my trust, and my money. You repaid that by stealing from him and abandoning him when he needed you most." I showed her the photos Sharon had sent. Courtney and Bradley at restaurants, at hotels, on the yacht together. The timestamps, the locations, everything documented. Dr. Foster's expression hardened. "Ma'am, Mr. Montgomery is correct. As of this afternoon, hospital administration was notified of the change in medical proxy. You no longer have automatic access to the patient. Mr. Montgomery can grant or deny visitation at his discretion. This is ridiculous. I am his wife. A wife who chose cheaper, less effective treatment against my medical recommendations," Dr. Foster said quietly. "A wife who has not visited in 3 days while her husband fought for his life. I am not in the habit of judging family dynamics, ma'am, but in this case, I support Mr. Montgomery's decision completely." Courtney's face flushed red. "You cannot talk to me like that." "I can, and I am. Now, I suggest you lower your voice before I have security escort you out." At that moment, Harold arrived, briefcase in hand, looking every bit the high-powered attorney despite the late hour. He must have caught a flight right after filing the court order. "Ah, you must be Courtney," Harold said pleasantly. "Harold Brennan, Mr. Montgomery's attorney. I have some documents for you to review." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "Inside you will find divorce papers, prepared this afternoon, along with a complete accounting of funds withdrawn from the trust, credit cards, and joint accounts. You will also find documentation of your affair with Bradley Sutton, including hotel receipts, photographs, and witness statements." Courtney's hands shook as she took the folder. "You are divorcing me?" "I am not divorcing you," I said. "Daniel will be, once he wakes up. But these papers are yours to review. You have 2 options, Courtney. Option 1, you sign these documents tonight. You relinquish all claims to joint assets, the trust fund, and any future financial connection to Daniel. You walk away quietly, and we all move on with our lives." "And option 2? She whispered. Harold smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Option 2. We pursue criminal charges for financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, medical neglect, and fraud. We release all evidence to the media, including your affair and the trust fund theft. We let the prosecutor's office decide if your actions rise to the level of criminal endangerment. And we file a civil suit on Daniel's behalf for every penny you have stolen, plus damages." "You are bluffing," Courtney said, but her voice held no conviction. "I never bluff," Harold replied. "Ask anyone who knows me." A hospital administrator joined our growing group, a stern-looking woman in her 50s. "Additionally," she said, "the hospital is considering a civil complaint regarding your interference with medical treatment. Dr. Foster's notes indicate you overrode his professional recommendations for financial reasons, directly contributing to the patient's deteriorated condition. That opens several legal avenues we are exploring." Courtney looked around at all of us, trapped and cornered. Her face crumpled. "I want to see Daniel. Please, just let me see him." "Why?" I asked. "So you can tell him you are sorry? So you can try to manipulate him one more time? My son is unconscious, Courtney. He cannot hear you. And when he wakes up, he is going to know everything you have done. Do you really want your last conversation with him to be you begging for forgiveness you do not deserve?" Tears streamed down her face now, real ones. "I did love him once. I swear I did. Once," I repeated. "But not enough to stay faithful. Not enough to pay his medical bills. Not enough to sit with him when he was dying. Whatever you felt once, it died a long time ago. You just did not have the decency to tell him." She stood there, shaking, makeup ruined, designer dress rumpled. All her beauty and charm stripped away to reveal the hollow person underneath. "If I sign the papers, can I see him? Just for 5 minutes?" I considered it. Harold shook his head slightly, advising against it. But something in me, some small remaining piece of compassion, relented. 5 minutes, I said. You sign everything right here, right now, and I will give you 5 minutes with him. But I will be in the room the entire time. Courtney nodded frantically. Harold produced a pen. Right there in the ICU waiting room, Courtney signed the divorce papers, the financial releases, and a non-disclosure agreement promising not to speak publicly about any of this. Her hand trembled so badly she could barely write her name. When it was done, I led her to Daniel's room. The machines beeped their steady rhythm. Daniel looked peaceful, almost like he was just sleeping. Courtney approached the bed slowly, as if afraid he might wake up and see her. She stood there for a long moment, just staring at him. Then she leaned down and whispered something I could not hear. When she straightened, tears dripped onto the white blanket. "Time is up," I said quietly. I followed her to the elevator. As the doors opened, she turned to me one last time. I was not abandoning him. I needed some space to think. When it was done, I led her to Daniel's room. The machines beeped their steady rhythm. Daniel looked peaceful, almost like he was just sleeping. Courtney approached the bed slowly, as if afraid he might wake up and see her. "It is worth nothing," I replied, "because sorry does not fix what you broke. It does not give Daniel back the weeks he suffered while you partied. It does not erase the betrayal, or the theft, or the cruelty. Sorry is just a word, Courtney, and words from you mean less than nothing." The elevator doors closed on her tear-stained face. I went back to Daniel's room, sat in the chair beside his bed, and finally let myself feel the exhaustion. It was done. Courtney was gone. The accounts were secured. Daniel was safe. But the war was not over yet. Because 3 days later, my phone buzzed with a notification that made my blood pressure spike all over again. Sharon had been monitoring Courtney's social media as a precaution. What she found made me realize that some people never learn. 3 days after Courtney signed the divorce papers and left the hospital, Daniel's condition began to stabilize. The aggressive antibiotics, now that Dr. Foster could prescribe the ones he actually wanted without cost concerns, were finally beating back the infection. Daniel's color improved slightly. The machines showed better kidney function, though not enough to avoid dialysis. I had been staying at a hotel 2 blocks from the hospital, sleeping in 4-hour shifts, spending every other moment at Daniel's bedside. Trevor had visited twice, bringing books and a tablet loaded with Daniel's favorite shows for when he woke up. Nurse Patricia checked on us frequently, bringing coffee and words of encouragement. On the 4th morning, I was reading the news on my phone when a notification from Sharon interrupted me. She had been keeping tabs on Courtney, just in case. The message made my hands clench around the phone. "Check Courtney's Facebook. She is playing victim. Has a crowdfunding page." I opened Facebook and searched for Courtney's profile. There it was, posted 6 hours ago. The post was long, written in that performative vulnerability style that social media rewards. It talked about how she was going through the hardest time of her life and dealing with elder abuse from a controlling father-in-law who has stolen her financial independence. She claimed I had manipulated the legal system to cut her off from her own money and prevented her from seeing her sick husband. The crowdfunding link led to a page titled, "Help Me Fight Elder Financial Abuse." The description was even worse. She painted herself as a devoted wife prevented from caring for her husband by a vindictive old man who disapproved of their marriage. She asked for donations to hire proper legal representation to fight this injustice. She had raised $842 from 37 people. I stared at the screen, feeling that familiar cold rage settle over me again. The sheer audacity of it, the manipulation, the lies. My first instinct was to respond publicly, to post all the evidence and destroy her false narrative. But something stopped me. I looked at Daniel, still unconscious, still fragile. Did I want his personal pain splashed across the internet? Did I want strangers knowing the details of his betrayal? I called Harold. "I saw it," he said before I could speak. "Sharon sent it to me an hour ago. We can shut it down. Violation of the non-disclosure agreement. We can have the crowdfunding page removed and pursue legal action. Will that stop her from playing victim? Probably not. People like Courtney always find a way to be the hero of their own story." I sat back in the chair, thinking. Then I heard Daniel make a sound, a small groan. My head snapped up. "Harold, I have to go." Daniel is waking up. I dropped the phone and moved to the bedside. Daniel's eyelids fluttered. His fingers twitched. I grabbed his hand. "Daniel? Can you hear me, son?" His eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first. He blinked at the harsh lights, then his gaze found my face. His lips moved, barely a whisper. "Dad?" My eyes stung with tears I had been holding back for days. "I am here. You are okay. You are in the hospital, but you are going to be okay." Confusion crossed his face. He tried to sit up but did not have the strength. I gently pressed his shoulder back down. "Do not try to move. You have been very sick. Just rest." "What?" His voice was raspy, barely audible. "What happened?" "You had a kidney infection. It got bad. You have been here for a week." His eyes widened slightly. "A week?" "Yes, but you are getting better now. You had a kidney infection. It got bad. You have been here for a week." His gaze shifted around the room, taking in the machines, the tubes, the hospital setting. Then he looked back at me with a question in his eyes that I dreaded. My heart broke. Even after everything, his first thought was of her. I took a breath and made a decision. I was not going to lie to my son, but I was going to be gentle. "Daniel, there are some things we need to talk about when you are stronger. For now, just know that you are safe, and I am here." "Dad, where is my wife?" The machines beeped their steady rhythm. I squeezed his hand and met his eyes. "She is not here, son. And there is a reason for that. But we do not have to talk about it right now." Something in my expression must have told him it was serious. His face fell. "Did something happen to her? Is she okay?" "She is fine. She is just not here." "I do not understand." Over the next 30 minutes, as gently as I could, I told him. I showed him the text messages on his own phone, the ones where he begged for help, and she dismissed him. I showed him the Instagram photos of the yacht. I explained about the trust fund withdrawals, the maxed credit cards, the affair. Daniel cried. Not loud, dramatic sobs, but quiet tears that slid down his pale cheeks while the machines beeped and the fluorescent lights hummed. He did not say much. He just stared at the ceiling and let the tears fall. When I finished, he was silent for a long time. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, "I loved her so much." "I know you did. How could she do this?" "I do not know, Daniel. Some people are just broken in ways we cannot see until it is too late." He closed his eyes. "I feel so stupid." "You are not stupid. You are trusting. There is a difference. You love someone with your whole heart, and she took advantage of that. That is not your fault." "I ignored the signs," he said. "Over the past year, she changed. She became obsessed with money, with status, with appearances. She stopped asking about my day, stopped caring about my life. I told myself it was just a phase, that she was stressed from work. But I knew, deep down, I knew something was wrong, and I did not want to face it. That is human, Daniel. We all do that when we love someone." He opened his eyes and looked at me. "What happens now?" "Now you focus on getting better. The doctors say you need months of dialysis. You might need a kidney transplant." "A transplant?" His face went even paler. "Let's not worry about that yet. One step at a time. First, we get you stable. Everything else comes after." Dr. Foster arrived for his morning rounds and was pleased to see Daniel awake. He examined him thoroughly, asked questions, checked the machines. When he was done, he gave us the update. "You are improving, which is excellent news, but your kidney function is still critically low. We need to continue dialysis 3 times a week for the foreseeable future. In 6 months, we will reevaluate for a possible transplant." 6 months, Daniel repeated numbly. "It gives your body time to heal and get stronger for the surgery," Dr. Foster explained. "In the meantime, you will need to be on a strict diet, take multiple medications, and attend all your dialysis appointments without exception. This is going to be a marathon, not a sprint." After the doctor left, Daniel was quiet again. I could see him processing everything, the weight of it settling on shoulders already too burdened. "Dad," he said eventually, "did you really freeze all the accounts and kick Courtney out?" "I did." "Why?" "Because you could not do it yourself, and someone needed to protect you." He thought about that. "She probably hates you now." "I do not care if she hates me. I care that you are alive and safe. Did she sign divorce papers? She did. Good, he said quietly. Then, even more quietly, I do not think I could have done it. Even after all this, I do not think I could have walked away from her. That is why I did it for you. Sometimes, love makes us too weak to do what is necessary. That is when you need someone who loves you more than they care about being liked. Daniel closed his eyes again. I am so tired, Dad. Then sleep. I will be right here when you wake up. He drifted off within minutes, exhausted by the conversation and the weight of truth. I sat there watching him sleep, watching the machines keep him alive, and felt the full magnitude of how close I had come to losing him. Over the next 2 weeks, Daniel grew stronger. He started eating solid food. He began physical therapy to rebuild muscle mass. Trevor visited regularly, bringing humor and normalcy. Nurse Patricia became a favorite, her warm presence a constant comfort, but Daniel remained emotionally fragile. The betrayal had cut deep, deeper than the infection that nearly killed him. He barely spoke about Courtney, but I could see the pain in his eyes whenever someone mentioned her name. Then, 3 weeks after he woke up, Harold called with news. The crowdfunding page has been shut down. Courtney violated the non-disclosure agreement. She raised a total of $860, which will be returned to donors. Additionally, we have received notice that Bradley Sutton, the yacht owner, is suing Courtney for fraud. Fraud? Apparently, Courtney told him she was investing the $75,000 from the trust fund into his real estate development. She promised returns. The development failed, and Bradley is claiming she knew it would fail but invested anyway to gain access to his social circle. He wants his reputation protected and is going after her legally. So her entire life is falling apart. Completely. She lost her job at the hotel, by the way. Someone sent her social media posts to her employer. Apparently, posting yacht photos while calling in sick for 2 weeks violated company policy. Daniel closed his eyes again. I am so tired, Dad. That is not our problem anymore, Montgomery. She made her choices. Let her live with them. So her entire life is falling apart. When I finished, he said something that surprised me. That is not our problem anymore, Montgomery. She made her choices. Let her live with them. What? After I hung up, I went to Daniel's room and told him everything. He listened without expression. You are not angry? Let Courtney go. Stop tracking her. Stop responding to her. Let her have her lies and her victim story. The people who matter know the truth. Everyone else does not matter. I looked at my son, pale and thin but clear-eyed, and felt a surge of pride. Somewhere in the pain and betrayal, he had found wisdom. I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I just felt tired. What happens to her now? I am furious, Daniel said. But I am also exhausted. I do not want revenge. I do not want drama. I just want to heal and move on. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting her to die. I am done poisoning myself. But the universe was not done with us yet, because 2 weeks later, Dr. Foster came to Daniel's room with news that would change everything again. You are right, I said. We let her go. And we did. Harold stopped monitoring Courtney's activities. I deleted the private investigator's contact. We focused entirely on Daniel's recovery and the future. Daniel nodded. We had been preparing for this news. The transplant list has a wait time of 3 to 5 years in Florida, Dr. Foster continued. Given your age and otherwise good health, you are a priority candidate, but that is still a long time to be on dialysis. There is another option. A living donor, I said. Dr. Foster arrived during morning rounds with his usual clipboard, but an unusual expression. He looked serious, but there was something else in his eyes. Hope, maybe. I want to be tested, I said immediately. Daniel's head snapped toward me. Dad, no. You are 67 years old. So? People donate kidneys into their 70s. I am healthy. I exercise. I have no medical conditions. You could have complications. You could need that kidney yourself someday. Then I will deal with it when it happens. You need this now. Dr. Foster held up a hand. Before we get ahead of ourselves, let's run the tests. Montgomery, you might not be a match. Blood type, tissue compatibility, there are multiple factors. Let's see what we are working with first. They took my blood that afternoon. The waiting was excruciating. 3 days felt like 3 years. I spent the time researching living kidney donation, reading success stories, understanding the risks. The statistics were encouraging. Over 98% of donors lived normal, healthy lives with one kidney. The surgery was laparoscopic, with recovery time of 4 to 6 weeks. When the results came back, Dr. Foster called us both into a consultation room. "Montgomery, you are a perfect match." The relief that flooded through me was overwhelming. Daniel looked stunned. "Dad, you do not have to do this." "Exactly. Living donors have a much higher success rate, and the surgery can be scheduled at our convenience rather than waiting for a deceased donor match. Have you thought about testing family members? But what if something happens to you? What if you need that kidney later?" "Daniel, listen to me. I have lived 67 good years. I have built a career, traveled the world, raised a son I am proud of. If I can give you another 40 or 50 years of life, that is not a sacrifice. That is a privilege." Tears filled Daniel's eyes. "I do not know what to say." "Say, yes, let me do this." He nodded, unable to speak. The surgery was scheduled for 3 weeks later. We both underwent extensive pre-surgical testing. I had to prove I was healthy enough to donate, that my remaining kidney would be sufficient, that I understood all the risks. I passed every test. During those 3 weeks, something beautiful happened. Daniel and I talked more than we had in years. We shared stories, regrets, hopes. I told him about his mother, things I had never spoken about before, how much she loved him, how proud she would be of the man he became. Daniel talked about his marriage, the slow erosion of trust he had ignored. He admitted he had been lonely for a long time, that work had become his escape from a home that no longer felt warm. He talked about his dreams of starting fresh, of finding real love someday with someone who valued him. We watched old family videos together. Daniel's first steps, his high school graduation, his mother's last birthday before she got sick. We laughed and cried and remembered. Trevor organized a rotation of friends to visit. They brought food, laughter, and support. Daniel realized how many people genuinely cared about him, how isolated Courtney had kept him from his real community. The night before surgery, Daniel and I sat in his hospital room watching the sunset through the window. Florida sunsets were spectacular, all orange and pink and purple. "Dad, can I tell you something?" Daniel said quietly. "Anything." "I am scared. Not of the surgery. Of what comes after. What if I never trust anyone again? What if Courtney broke something in me that can't be fixed?" I thought carefully about my answer. "She did break something in you. She broke your naivety. She broke your assumption that love is always reciprocal. But those things needed to break, Daniel. They were illusions. Real trust is not blind. It is earned and given carefully. Real love is not perfect. It is two imperfect people choosing each other every day, especially on the hard days. How do I find that? You start by healing. You learn to trust yourself again first. You learn what red flags look like, what you will and will not accept. And then, when you are ready, you stay open. Because closing yourself off to protect your heart also closes you off to joy. You have to be brave enough to risk pain to find real love. Were you? After Mom died? I smiled sadly. No. I closed myself off completely. I threw myself into work and hobbies and kept everyone at a distance, including you. It took almost losing you to realize what I had been missing. Do not make my mistake, Daniel. Heal, yes. Protect yourself, yes. But stay open. Promise me." He promised. The surgery took place early the next morning. We were in adjacent operating rooms. The last thing I remember before the anesthesia took hold was the surgeon saying, "You are doing a wonderful thing, Mr. Montgomery." When I woke up, the first thing I asked was about Daniel. The nurse smiled and told me the transplant was successful. My kidney was functioning perfectly in my son's body. He was already awake and asking about me. They wheeled me to recovery where I could see him. Daniel looked tired, but his color was better already. We reached for each other's hands across the space between our beds. "Thank you, Dad," he whispered. "Thank you for my life. Thank you for being worth saving." Recovery was hard. The incisions hurt. Movement was difficult. But every time I felt pain, I reminded myself that Daniel was healing, that my kidney was giving him a future. That made every ache worthwhile. We recovered in adjacent rooms for a week, Then we're both discharged to a recovery house near the hospital for another 3 weeks of monitoring. Trevor helped coordinate everything, making sure we had meals, transportation to follow-up appointments, and entertainment during the long hours of healing. 6 weeks post-surgery, Dr. Foster gave us both glowing reports. My remaining kidney was functioning at full capacity. Daniel's new kidney was working beautifully. We were both cleared to return to normal activities gradually. "Thank you, Dad," he whispered. "Thank you for my life." She was in the waiting room, a woman about Daniel's age with kind eyes and a gentle smile. They struck up a conversation about kidney transplants, discovered they had both received theirs within the same month. They exchanged numbers to text about recovery experiences. Over the next few months, those texts became regular conversations. Conversations became coffee meetings. Coffee became dinner. I watched from a distance as my son slowly opened his heart again, this time to someone who understood pain and resilience and second chances. Amy had received her kidney from her sister. She worked as a librarian, loved hiking, and had a laugh that could light up a room. More importantly, she was patient with Daniel's healing process, both physical and emotional. She never pushed, never demanded more than he could give. 6 months after the transplant, Daniel invited me to dinner at his new apartment. He had moved out of the house he shared with Courtney, started fresh in a smaller place near downtown Tampa. When I arrived, Amy was there too, helping cook. Watching them together, the easy affection and mutual respect, I felt something settle in my chest. Peace, maybe. Hope for my son's future. That night after dinner, Daniel pulled me aside. "I heard from Harold," he said. "Courtney's lawsuit against Bradley was settled. She has to pay him back in installments. She is working 3 jobs to make the payments. How do you feel about that?" "Honestly, nothing. I do not wish her well, but I do not wish her harm either. She is just irrelevant to my life now. That is healthy. I learned that from you. Letting go, moving forward." He paused. "I also learned something else." "What's that?" "That real love looks like you flying across the country when someone needs you, like you giving me your kidney without hesitation, like you fighting for me when I could not fight for myself. That is the kind of love I want to give and receive." I put my hand on his shoulder. "You will, son. You already are." 2 weeks later, Harold called with final news about Courtney. The divorce was official. All financial ties were severed. She had moved to a different city, trying to rebuild her life away from the wreckage she created. Daniel deleted her number from his phone, removed all photos, packed up the last few belongings she never collected and donated them. It was not dramatic or vengeful, it was simply closure. Daniel deleted her number from his phone, removed all photos, packed up the last few belongings she never collected and donated them. It was not dramatic or vengeful, it was simply closure. 8 months after the transplant, Dr. Foster called Daniel and me in for a routine checkup. The news was everything we hoped for. Daniel's kidney function was at 95%. My remaining kidney was healthy and strong. We were both thriving. "Not at all," I said. "If it encourages other families, use away." "Not at all," I said. "If it encourages other families, use away." In the waiting room after the appointment, Daniel and I ran into Nurse Patricia. She hugged us both, tears in her eyes. "Look at you two," she said. "When I made that phone call 9 months ago, I did not know if Daniel would make it. And now look, both of you healthy and whole. This is why I became a nurse." "Thank you for calling me," I said. "You saved my son's life." "You saved your son's life," she corrected. "I just made a phone call." We stayed in touch with Patricia. She became part of our small circle of people who mattered. Sometimes the hardest moments bring the best people into your life. Daniel's relationship with Amy deepened. They moved slowly, respecting each other's past hurts and need for careful trust building. I watched my son learn to be vulnerable again, to communicate openly, to build something real and lasting. One Sunday, about a year after the transplant, Daniel invited me to go hiking with him and Amy at Hillsborough River State Park. It was an easy trail, nothing strenuous, but for both of us recovering transplant recipients, it felt like climbing Everest. We reached a scenic overlook and stopped to rest. The river wound below us, sunlight sparkling on the water. Daniel stood with Amy's hand in his, and something about the moment felt significant. "Dad, I want to tell you something," Daniel said. "I am listening. I am listening." That is a painful realization. Daniel's relationship with Amy deepened. They moved slowly, respecting each other's past hurts and need for careful trust building. I watched my son learn to be vulnerable again, to communicate openly, to build something real and lasting. Amy squeezed his hand, her eyes bright with emotion. Tears blurred my vision. I should have shown up sooner. I wasted years keeping you at arm's length. His words stung, but they were true. You are right. I did pull away. We reached a scenic overlook and stopped to rest. The river wound below us, sunlight sparkling on the water. Daniel stood with Amy's hand in his, and something about the moment felt significant. That is a painful realization. Maybe. But we have now, and I would rather have an imperfect father who shows up than a perfect one who doesn't exist. Dad, I want to tell you something, Daniel said. The months continued to pass. Daniel returned to work full-time at Netsoft and earned the promotion he had been hoping for. Amy was offered a head librarian position at a new branch. They moved in together, taking that careful next step. I extended my stay in Florida indefinitely. I sold my house in Seattle and bought a condo in Tampa. Being near Daniel, being part of his daily life instead of observing it from 2,000 miles away, felt right. I started volunteering at Tampa General, working with families facing medical crises. My experience gave me a unique ability to help others navigate the fear and uncertainty. One evening, about 18 months after the transplant, Daniel called and asked me to meet him for dinner. Just the two of us, he said. Something in his tone made me curious. We met at a quiet restaurant downtown. Daniel seemed nervous, fidgeting with his napkin. What is on your mind, son? Tears blurred my vision. I should have shown up sooner. I wasted years keeping you at arm's length. Joy flooded through me. That is wonderful. When? Next month. I have been planning it for weeks. But before I do, I need to know something. After everything that happened with Courtney, can you trust my judgment? Can you support this? Daniel, Amy is nothing like Courtney. Anyone can see that. We met at a quiet restaurant downtown. Daniel seemed nervous, fidgeting with his napkin. What is on your mind, son? How? Because you are asking the question. Because you have grown and learned. Because you are building this relationship on honesty and respect instead of illusion and need. Because Amy challenges you to be better, and you do the same for her. That is not a mistake. That is wisdom earned through pain. Daniel's shoulders relaxed. I needed to hear that. You have my complete support and blessing. Your mother would love Amy. I love Amy. More importantly, you love Amy in a healthy, sustainable way. That is all that matters. Because you are asking the question. Because you have grown and learned. Because you are building this relationship on honesty and respect instead of illusion and need. Because Amy challenges you to be better, and you do the same for her. That is not a mistake. That is wisdom earned through pain. I had to swallow past the lump in my throat. I would be honored. Daniel proposed to Amy on the anniversary of his transplant, at the same river overlook where we had hiked. She said yes. They set the wedding for the following spring, small and intimate, just close friends and family. The night before the wedding, Daniel and I sat on the balcony of my condo, looking out over the city lights. He had asked to spend the evening with me, a tradition from when he was young, and we would talk before big events. I had to swallow past the lump in my throat. I would be honored. That is how you know it is right. That is how you know it is right. I wish Mom could be here. She is here. Every time you show kindness, every time you choose honesty, every time you love someone with your whole heart despite the risk, that is all her. She lives in you. I smiled. Maybe I will. The question surprised me. I do not know. I spent so long alone that it became comfortable. But I have learned that comfortable is not always good. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Do you think you will ever find someone? After Mom? I smiled. Maybe I will. I smiled. Maybe I will. I had to swallow past the lump in my throat. I would be honored. I could not ask for a better daughter-in-law. I could not be more proud to stand here today and celebrate both of you. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Do you think you will ever find someone? After Mom? I could not ask for a better daughter-in-law. I could not be more proud to stand here today and celebrate both of you. You should stay open to it. Take your own advice. The room erupted in applause. Daniel hugged me tight, whispering, "Thank you for everything, Dad." One Sunday, About 6 months after the wedding, Daniel arrived at my condo with news. Amy is pregnant. I felt like my heart might burst. A grandchild? A grandchild. Due in 7 months. I hugged him hard. Your mother would be over the moon. I hugged him hard. Your mother would be over the moon. A grandchild. Due in 7 months. The months flew by. Amy's pregnancy progressed smoothly. Daniel attended every appointment, read every book, prepared like he was studying for the most important exam of his life. I felt like my heart might burst. A grandchild? I wish she could meet the baby. Daniel watched me hold his daughter and said, "Thank you for my life, Dad. Thank you for making this moment possible." When they placed that baby in my arms for the first time, I wept. All the pain of the past 2 years, all the betrayal and fear and struggle led to this moment. This perfect, tiny person who would never know how close she came to not existing because her father almost died. When they placed that baby in my arms for the first time, I wept. All the pain of the past 2 years, all the betrayal and fear and struggle led to this moment. This perfect, tiny person who would never know how close she came to not existing because her father almost died. Courtney's betrayal had torn Daniel's life apart, but in the rebuilding, he found real love, real trust, and real family. Sometimes we have to lose everything we thought we wanted to find what we actually needed. And sometimes the darkest moments lead to the brightest futures. 3 years after that midnight phone call changed everything. I sat on the beach in Clearwater watching the sunset. Daniel sat beside me, Rachel, now 2 years old, playing in the sand between us. Amy was gathering shells with her sister a few yards away, and sometimes the darkest moments lead to the brightest futures. "Look, Grandpa, pretty. Very pretty, sweetheart." Daniel smiled watching his daughter. "She has Mom's curiosity, always finding treasures in ordinary places. She does. Your mother would have loved her so much." I think about that sometimes. How close Rachel came to never existing. If you had not gotten on that plane, if you had not fought for me, none of this would be here. Daniel smiled watching his daughter. "She has Mom's curiosity, always finding treasures in ordinary places." Rachel toddled over to Amy, showing her the shell. Amy scooped her up and spun her around, both of them laughing. Daniel watched them with an expression of pure contentment. "I heard from Trevor last week," Daniel said. "He ran into Courtney at a conference in Atlanta." Rachel toddled over to Amy, showing her the shell. Amy scooped her up and spun her around, both of them laughing. Daniel watched them with an expression of pure contentment. "According to Trevor, she is doing okay. New job, new city, seems to be rebuilding. She asked about me. Trevor said I was married with a daughter and happy. She said she was glad. How do you feel about that?" Daniel thought for a moment. "Honestly, I feel nothing. No anger, no bitterness. She is just someone I used to know. Whatever we had is so far in the past it feels like it happened to a different person. That is healing." "Yeah, it is." He paused. "You know what I learned through all of this? Tell me, that betrayal only destroys you if you let it. Courtney tried to take everything from me. My health, my money, my trust. But she could not take what mattered most. She could not take my capacity to love again. She could not take my family. She could not take my future. Those things were never hers to take. Tell me." I also learned that love is not about grand gestures or perfect moments. It is about showing up. You showed up when I needed you. Amy shows up every single day. That is what real love looks like. Presence. Consistency. Sacrifice when necessary. Rachel ran back to us, sandy and happy. Daniel picked her up and held her close. She wrapped her small arms around his neck. "I love you, Daddy. I love you too, baby girl." Watching them, I felt my chest tighten with emotion. This was what mattered. This moment right here. Not the pain of the past or the uncertainty of the future, but this perfect present. Watching them, I felt my chest tighten with emotion. This was what mattered. This moment right here. Not the pain of the past or the uncertainty of the future, but this perfect present. What is it? Amy and I have been talking. We want to name our next child after you. If it is a boy, Montgomery Jr. Tears filled my eyes. "You are having another baby?" Tears filled my eyes. "You are having another baby?" I could not speak. I just held my son and let the tears fall. That evening, after we said goodbye to Daniel and his family, I drove back to my condo and sat on the balcony watching the stars appear. I thought about everything that had happened over the past 3 years. The phone call, the hospital, the betrayal, the transplant, the healing, the wedding, the granddaughter. Every moment of pain had led to something beautiful. Not because the pain itself was good, but because we chose what to do with it. We chose growth over bitterness. We chose connection over isolation. We chose love over fear. I pulled out my phone and opened my voice memos. I wanted to record something for Rachel and whatever other grandchildren might come, something they could listen to when they were old enough to understand. I pressed record and began to speak. My name is Montgomery, and I want to tell you about the most important phone call I ever received. It came in the middle of the night, and it changed everything. But this story is not about that phone call. It is about what came after. It is about the choices we make when life tears us apart. Here is what I learned, and what I hope you will carry with you. First, love shows up. Real love is not about flowers and fancy dinners. It is about flying across the country when someone needs you. It is about sitting beside a hospital bed for days. It is about giving pieces of yourself, sometimes literally, to help someone else survive. Love is action. Love is presence. Love is sacrifice. Second, betrayal reveals character. When someone you trust hurts you, you learn who you really are. Are you bitter or brave? Vengeful or graceful? The pain they cause is their choice. How you respond is yours. Your grandmother, your father, and I all faced betrayal and chose to become better, not bitter. That choice defines everything. Third, forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It means refusing to let the past poison your future. You can acknowledge pain, set boundaries, protect yourself, and still move forward with an open heart. Closing yourself off to protect against hurt also closes you off to joy. Stay open. Be careful, yes. Be wise, yes. But stay open. Love you too, son. Fifth, sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. If that phone call had never come, your father might have stayed in a broken marriage. I might have stayed distant and disconnected. We might never have found our way back to each other. The pain was real, but it cracked us open in ways that let the light in. Fourth, vulnerability is strength, not weakness. Your father learned this the hard way. He ignored his pain, physical and emotional, because he wanted to appear strong. Real strength is asking for help when you need it, and accepting it when it is offered. Do not make his mistake. Speak up, reach out, let people in. My darlings, life will hurt you. People will disappoint you. You will face betrayal and loss and moments where you question everything. But you get to choose what you do with that pain. You can let it make you hard and closed, or you can let it make you wise and compassionate. You can seek revenge, or you can seek healing. You can hold grudges, or you can hold hope. Choose wisely. Choose love. Choose presence. Choose growth. And remember, your great-grandmother Rachel, your grandfather Daniel, and I all fought through darkness to give you light. Carry that forward. Be brave. Be kind. Show up for the people you love. That is how you honor us. That is how you build a life worth living. I chose love. I chose presence. I chose to fight for what mattered. My phone rang. It was Daniel. Hey, Dad, I forgot to tell you. Sunday dinner is at our place this week. Amy is making her famous lasagna. Can you come? I would not miss it for the world. Bring someone if you want. Patricia mentioned she is free. Or that woman from your volunteer group, the one who keeps bringing you cookies. I smiled. Maybe it was time to take my own advice about staying open. Maybe I will. Good. See you Sunday. Love you, Dad. Love you too, son. I smiled. Maybe it was time to take my own advice about staying open. Maybe I will. Good. See you Sunday. Love you, Dad. That midnight phone call had been terrifying. But it had also been a gift. It gave me my son back. It gave me a family. It gave me purpose. I chose love. I chose presence. I chose to fight for what mattered. I smiled. Maybe it was time to take my own advice about staying open. Maybe I will. What would you do if you received a call in the middle of the night that someone you loved was in danger? Would you drop everything and go, or would you hesitate? Have you ever had to make a choice between comfort and courage? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might inspire someone else who needs to hear it. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that showing up matters, that love is action, and that we always have the power to choose growth over bitterness. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that even in our darkest moments, we have the power to choose light. May you always have the courage to show up for the people you love, and may they show up for you. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.